Hey everyone, and welcome to this year's Maid Summit 2021. I'm Chris Schwab, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be walking you through a year-long roadmap for how you can take your cleaning business and make it a location-independent cleaning business, meaning that you can run it from literally anywhere in the world. So we're going to break it down quarter by quarter. So we're going to have a quarter one goal, a quarter two goal, a quarter three goal, and a quarter four goal. And by the end of quarter four, your business, if you follow this roadmap closely, will be at a stage where you can become an absentee owner, or you can be running it from pretty much any country in the world. So that's the goal for this next 30 minutes or so. It's not an easy road the next year, but it's very doable. And in fact, I've helped well over 100 other cleaning companies do precisely the same thing. So that said, I just want to do a real quick introduction on who I am, just to give you a little context for why I'm speaking to you about this. So I run a cleaning company called ZenMaid. We started back in 2016 over the summer. This was, at the time, my final semester of university was just about to begin. And I was really at that awkward stage where I was having to focus on what a real career was going to be like for me, what fields I wanted to go into. At the time, I was deciding between psychology and web development. My degree was in psychology, and I was okay at web development. I look back now, I was pretty bad at it, but at the time I thought I was okay. I didn't want either of those. The reason being that I'm a very independent person, but I also at the time had a girlfriend who's now my wife, who lived across the world 13 time zones away from me. So if I were to get a job or a career, I would be, even if it was a location independent job to an extent at the time, you would still be restricted by time zones. And so I knew if I wanted this relationship to work, if I wanted to be able to travel the world and do everything I had planned in my 20s, it had to be a business. That was really the only viable way that this lifestyle was going to work for me. So I started my cleaning company, and it very quickly grew from zero to about $20,000 a month in less than 90 days. We've grown significantly since then, but we were able to grow it really quickly. And I kind of hit this roadblock, if you will, where I was just working all day, because even at $20,000 a month, since it was your first business, you were needlessly busy because you were still taking in a bunch of new business concepts and problems that you'd never faced before. And so I was just so busy, despite us being still kind of a small company. And I realized that I had less time available for my relationships than if I had become an employee, which is kind of the business owner's trap year 1 and 2, right? We think we're going to have so much free time, but we have much less. So I was in this trap, and I very quickly realized I needed help, but I couldn't quite afford it. And so I stumbled on this idea of virtual assistants. And so I started to train virtual assistants to run my cleaning company in my place. Not everything at first, but they ran the daily operations. So tasks like phones, scheduling for the teams, managing customers, replying to support emails, and so on. So I started training them, and it was way more effective than I thought it would be, to the extent that just a few months after that mark, I was able to go fully remote, full-time from March 25th, 2017. I moved from Washington, D.C., where we're based, all the way to Tokyo, Japan for a year. And since that time, I've been living fully remote in London and Tokyo and going back and forth between those two. So I haven't actually been back to Washington, D.C. a single time since that date in March 2017. So I've done this a lot for a long time, but I've also helped well over 100 other cleaning company owners do exactly the same thing. Shortly after going remote, I started my second company, InoVA Local, which is focused on training virtual assistants specifically for local business and cleaning business owners who want to become an absentee owner, who are just overwhelmed and need a little help in the office, or who, like me, want to travel and need support so that they're able to do that. And so we've had well over 100 clients in various forms over the years, and we've helped almost every single one of them do that as an eventual goal. So this is a very repeatable process that I'm going to show you throughout this interview. There's a couple different ways to splice it, but I think this year-long roadmap is a very manageable goal if you're doing it by yourself. So just know that this is repeatable and it's realistic. It's not easy, but you can do it. And so last thing for the introduction I want to say, I've done the Maid Summit a couple of years before. So if you want a little bit more in-depth on some of the topics that I mentioned in this talk, head on over to the 2019 Maid Summit website, and you can view about an hour-long talk on me walking you through hiring your own virtual assistant. And if you go back to 2020, you'll get a solid introduction on a personal productivity system that I developed for me and for clients that you can use for yourself and your team to make sure that all the important work in your business is being done every day, every week, and every month. So that's it for the introduction for me. I want to dive right into it now. We've got about 25 minutes left or so. And at that point, we're going to be, at the end, you'll have the plan and you'll be able to do it. And I've got a pretty cool offer that I think is going to make this a lot easier for you. So that said, introduction over, let's jump to. So in quarter one, we're focusing on overhauling the foundation of your business before we go remote. And this is something that no matter what your goal in your business is, whether it's to be an absentee owner or to travel or to grow a really big business, it doesn't actually matter what your long-term goal is, even if it's to pass it on to the next generation of your family. Every major goal you're ever going to have for your business is going to include this first step. And that is putting solid systems in your business that work day in and day out, whether you're there or not. If your business can't run without you in at least these key areas, you have a very big problem because you'll always be trapped in your business as an owner-operator then. You may not be going out doing the cleanings, but you will be trapped in your business in the sense that you'll have to be there every day, like a job, whether you like it or not. So the first order of business today is to just give you a quick overview, as our limited time will allow, of the minimum systems that you're going to need to actually go remote and to be able to just function as a business. So that said, I've kind of organized this almost like a software or game on this slide where they give you the minimum system requirements in order to run the software properly. We've kind of done the same thing here for business. And so there's a few key systems that you need that are just absolutely non-negotiable. That's marketing, including a reputation management system and a source of new leads coming in. So what I mean by reputation management is a way to get new reviews for your business and to increase the reputation in your local community of your cleaning company. So some people use Nice Jobs, some people just use Yelp or Google reviews. You need to have a simple system in place that's encouraging customers to leave their feedback and increasing the visibility of your cleaning company. And the other one for marketing is a way to bring in fresh leads. You can have the best client retention system in the world, but if you're not constantly bringing in new leads, eventually your business will die. So you need to have a way to bring in new leads. I advocate a simple system for paid marketing, like Google Ads, for example. It doesn't have to be that, but it's a good example of one. And a simple system for free marketing. You could have a system where you post on Nextdoor and engage with your neighbors regularly, or do partnership outreaches to movers where you establish partnerships to refer each other business. You need a paid and a free marketing solution that you're using day in and day out. You also need sales system. And this includes three parts, three mini systems that make up your sales system, which you can tie together into one bigger system, which I've done in the past, and I can walk you through that if you want. That includes a lead capture form for capturing the leads and entering them into an automated follow-up process where you're following up via text, via email, and via calls in order to encourage them to book with you, which then filters them after they've actually had their cleaning into a client retention campaign where you encourage them to come back and become a regular customer. So the sales system is three mini systems, but it's actually really just one bigger system where the steps should lead directly into the next part. You need a hiring funnel for hiring new teams, and eventually, as you get bigger, for hiring new office managers and assistants as well to help run the office. So this is a full hiring system. I've done a video on automating the hiring system with ZenMaid that I'm sure the team can link you to, but I walk you through how to automate the first 50% of your hiring process. You need an operations system, which includes team management, office admin, and a productivity system. where this is basically how you handle your teams and how you handle all the miscellaneous work and phone calls and emails that come in throughout the day. You actually need an organized way of handling these things. So these are kind of the 5 minimum requirements that you need for having a functioning business that you can take anywhere with you. I've got 3 other ones that I strongly recommend. So I recommend one for having an actual productivity system. What I mean by that is a to-do list, a way of batching smaller work together, a way of prioritizing your tasks in order of urgency, for example. You need a way that is very clear on how you and your office managers are actually going to work when tasks come in. You need a bookkeeping system. So this isn't essential, but it's very important still. You can have an accountant and hire them to take care of it, but you want to have some sort of simple bookkeeping system that you can use in your business to keep track of your expenses. And you also, I recommend having an emergency protocol in place for when things go wrong. And we call this the UTO protocol. So I've listed a couple of tools in this slide that I want you to look at. The strongest one, of course, and why I'm doing this presentation is ZenMaid. They've done probably 60% of the systems that you need in your business on the back end for your office. ZenMaid handles that for you, which is, even 5 years ago, imagining one software can do that much is ridiculous. But here we are, and they've actually done it in such a graceful manner that you don't even notice that a lot of the systems that you need, you're already using them with ZenMaid. They've just put it so well in the background. So I've listed these tools here, but the real goal of Q1, I want you to realize, is that you as the owner are replaceable. Especially as the owner, you need to be replaceable where you're not essential for any part of your business. Because if you're essential for any part of your business, when you're not available, then your business will fail. So your objective this next year in this roadmap is to learn how to slowly replace yourself bit by bit, department by department, so that your cleaning company can actually truly scale for the first time without you. So that's Q1. And in Q2, the focus is on building out your office team and actually learning how to delegate in an effective manner so that they're able to learn how to handle all the office tasks with confidence so that they eventually don't need you. And this is kind of an art. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here, but I strongly encourage you to look at my 2019 Maid Summit talk, because in that talk, I walk you through how to delegate in a little bit more detail. Same in the 2020 Maid Summit talk I did. I give you that productivity system for how to actually delegate to your team. So I'm going to be a little bit brief here and cover a couple of the essentials that I can in the time that we have allotted to us. So hiring your first VA, I just want to mention, wait until the end of the presentation in about 10 to 15 minutes. I have a very easy way that you can walk through this step by step so that you can get a great VA by the end of it. So stick around. But when you've hired your first VA, the most important thing when delegating is starting slow. The biggest mistake I see owners make, and I constantly see this even now, is hiring a great VA or office manager and then within a week throwing all of their tasks at the VA, which is absolutely the worst thing that you can do, because you're in your business, you've got all this information in your mind, you're used to doing these tasks for years. This VA, even if they're an office admin expert with 20 years of experience, they're not in your head, they haven't worked in your business before, and they've only just met your teams. So you've got to start slow, otherwise you'll burn them out very quickly. We use something called the 10 steps, which I can send you if you reach out to me, which is a 10-step process of slowly delegating tasks to your VA. It starts off with just getting them set up in your systems, introducing them to your teams, starting them off with just inbound and outbound calls, then after a couple weeks handing over support email, then after a couple more weeks handing off another big task. But the key is to very slowly acclimate them into your business and to be able to judge the performance of each area as excellent before you give them another task. So starting off slow is key. And one of the ways that you can do this when you know which tasks you want to delegate, and I always recommend phones first, is to prioritize them using what I call the ABCDE method, where you take all the tasks that you have and you assign them a letter grade of importance. So A is urgent / critical, B is very important, C is important, all the way down to E, which is kind of like nice to be done someday, but it's unimportant. So assign every task a letter grade of importance, and you'll have all the A and B tasks that you can begin to slowly offer up your VA to work on. And you can batch all your smaller tasks together. So the last big point here, and I know this is very general advice, is to be realistic. And what I mean is, often when I see people bring on a VA or office manager, they expect them to reply to every task right away, but they've got 3 tasks they're juggling at the same time. So they actually can't. So be realistic with your expectation on the performance of your VA. Give them 15 minutes to respond to something instead of 5. Show them a little trust. And over time, they'll get into the role. So just a couple more tips on delegation. On what this actually looks like on a day-to-day basis is basically, I want you to choose the 3 tasks that you hate doing the most. For me, that's phones, that's email, and that's anything urgent. I just hate, I'm a slow-paced, methodical guy that works through my day at an even pace. So phone calls with people screaming at me, teams arriving late, I just cannot deal with those things. So for me, all those team management, phone tasks, customer tasks, those are the tasks that I delegated immediately to my VA. So choose the 3 tasks that you hate most, and that's the one you want to give to them. But for the next week, work with them closely on the biggest #1 task and make sure that they get used to it and that they're able to do it well. Then, once they have a good level of expertise on that first task, the next week, work with them on the second biggest of the task, and so on down the list, until you've given them all the tasks that you want them to do, and they're performing each of them at a good level of excellence. So the key here is really starting off slow. The other thing I'll say is I want you to give them what's called the fuck-up fund, and I give credit to Tim Ferriss for this. This is very important, particularly when you go remote later on. In order for them to feel independent and not check in with you 10 times a day, you need to give them a buffer to make mistakes and know that they're not going to be penalized for those mistakes. So what we do is we give them a fuck-up fund, which is several $100s a week. It's a pot that they can dip into and fix a mistake using that money, and they don't have to notify me about it. So if they make a mistake and have to reschedule a customer later and that costs us $100, that's okay. They can use the $100 from the fuck-up fund, and they don't even have to tell me about it. And I actually don't want them to, because it's not worth the stress for me. I'll just take the hit. So giving them a fuck-up fund allows them a level of independence, which you will find is far, far worth more than it will cost you in money. So last thing is give them independence slowly. They want that guidance from you at first. Later on, they'll very much appreciate being independent throughout the day, but slowly at first. So that's quarter 2. That's the briefest overview I can give you of a massive topic on its own. Quarter 3 is doing a preparation and a dry run for actually going remote. So I call this a 1-1-1 dry run, where we do a 1-day dry run without being there for our teams and our office manager, a 1-week and a 1-month dry run, where we try and be there as little as possible and see how they actually do with that, and then check in with them once that time period is over. And so I did this by accident early on when I went remote to Japan for a week, right after I hired my VAs, barely when they were done with training, and they killed it. They bothered me twice the whole week, and I thought that was pretty cool. So doing a dry run is an essential thing before you go remote to make sure that this actually works on different time periods. A day, a week, a month is a good amount of time. If they can get a month with not much interaction out of you, and everything's running smoothly, the schedule's looking great, revenue's increasing, the leads are getting responded to, you're good to go. That's the last really big thing you need to do before going remote. The second thing that you want to focus on this business quarter is training up a backup person who can handle things if something happens to your VA, if they're indisposable, if they quit, for whatever reason, they're just not able to handle work that day. Having a backup person like a team lead or a lead cleaner who has a little experience with office management or handling emergencies is essential. You absolutely need a backup person in place, because sometime when you don't want it to, your VA is going to be indisposed and they're not going to be able to help you that day or even that week. So the second big thing in this quarter, you would probably want to spend a month doing this, is training up a backup who can handle the core essentials. They don't have to be perfect, but they do need to be able to handle the core things like phones, handling team emergencies, and responding to customers. And the last big thing you're going to work on is establishing a clear method of communication throughout your time when you're not there. So often it's easy to just call them or text them throughout the day when you're in the same country or location as them. But when you're not, you need to have a very clear way of working with different tasks. For us, all of our communication now happens in Slack with our teams and our VA. And for emergencies, they can text me or call my phone and I will answer. So that's the two ones that we use. But we also have used WhatsApp for years, and that worked very well as well. So have a clear method of communication, one, for your daily communication and tasks, and two, for emergencies. And I think most of us are going to have phones as the emergency one. Oh, I'm just going to go back a minute, actually. I want to mention one more thing on that. Have them have an emergency number for your spouse or your parents or someone else who does live near your business that you trust, who can go in and handle things as well if need be. So a couple tips on dry runs. I mentioned this earlier in the presentation, but really check out that presentation for 2019 on hiring your own VA because it explains a lot on how to do this. But one of the most useful things you can do is do a quarterly business health check. We do one 4 times a year, every 3 months, where we do a great business health check. And if you email me, I can give you our business health check template, where we look at each area of our business, marketing, sales, operations, and so on. And then we rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we work on the weakest area to shore it up so that it's actually one of our strengths by the end of that business quarter. And then the next quarter, we work on the weakest one. And then the next quarter, we work on the weakest one. So that we're always shoring up our weak areas so that when disaster strikes, we have a pretty solid foundation across the board. So I recommend that you do a quarterly business health check right before you leave. So if there's any glaring weaknesses in any area of your business, you get them taken care of before you leave. I'd also say it's important to set meetings and tasks in a central location. It can be in Slack like we do. We used to get really complex with cool automations and really complicated task managers like ClickUp. But as I've actually grown as a business and as a business owner, we've gotten much simpler in our setup now. So have a place where you have your weekly meetings and your tasks and your projects in a central location that's organized. That is key. But the tool that you use doesn't matter so much. One very important thing I want to mention here during your dry run and beyond is let your team negotiate with you. Do not just command them on what to do. Don't just throw a list of 10 things to do and expect it to be done at the end of the day. Let them negotiate and tell you how they're feeling that day. If they're exhausted, work with them to make their list a little bit shorter that day. If they need a couple days off, find a way to give them a couple days off. If a task is too difficult, work with them to break it down to simpler steps. But don't just command your VA or your office manager on what to do. Work with them as a partner, not as a boss. This is a huge, huge, huge point because you're not going to be in the same office or location. You're going to be working as partners together, often across country lines. So do these dry runs, the 1-1-1, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month dry runs. And at the end of that, if you've got your communication, if you've got your backup person in place, you've done a business health check, and these dry runs have gone well, you are ready to go. So Q4 is the last 3 months of the year where you're actually going to go and not be in your business anymore. You're actually going to do it, and it's going to feel really weird at first, and you're probably going to be way more attentive or way more absent than you want to be. It's going to go one of those either extreme ways when you actually go remote. For me, it was way more absent, and I actually had to teach myself to get involved in my business again. I was just too uninvolved for a number of months, and we started to suffer as a result. But when you actually go remote, there's a few final steps that I recommend that you take care of. And you've got 90% of it done at this point. If you've got your systems overhauled and efficient, you've got your office team built out, and you've done the dry runs, I mean, that's 90% of it right there. But there's a few very important things as you actually make that leap in real life to going remote that I strongly recommend that you do. The first is giving your team 3 months advance notice. and start to slowly go remote. So don't just tell them 1 week, hey, by the way, I'm moving next week to Zimbabwe or Greece. Actually give them a few months notice, at least 12 weeks, because they have to adjust to you permanently not being there. And that can be very stressful for them. So that's the big one. And I want you to also start building an SOP database for all the different tasks in your business. So use Trainual or Process Street for this, but start building SOPs for hiring, for emergency protocols, for what to do if a team calls off. Start building these mini templates and SOPs that your team have in a central location that they can plug and play with, so that they always have a structure with which to handle an emergency or a problem that comes up instead of just winging it. I want you to be overly blunt and specific with written tasks at first. It may sound a little bit rude. You're not being rude. It's just when you're communicating via email or Slack and you're not talking every day in person, you have to be extra clear. Bullet point form, you have to be extra clear with precisely what you want done. And your team will actually appreciate that extra clarity. So be very specific and very blunt. And a couple last tips is I want you to get LastPass, which is a password manager that you and your team can use. It's worth getting cybersecurity insurance, a virtual mailbox like Earth Class Mail or iPostal so that you can receive mail abroad to your US address, and travel insurance. These are all ones that are very worth getting. So the end goal with going remote is to be able to spend less than 2 hours a day managing your team and your business before actually going remote. And I have a couple recommendations I want to go through. So there's a few prerequisites I think you should have in place before actually starting on this journey of going remote. One is that you should have been running your company for at least 6 months, so you've got a solid basis on how to actually run a cleaning company, and you've gone through a lot of the emergencies and problems at least once. I think you should be bringing in at least $10,000 a month and preferably $15,000 plus because of profit margins. You won't be able to afford a good office manager or virtual assistant and pay yourself at the same time if you don't have at least $15,000 a month and have solid profit margins of at least 15 or 20%. It's just not going to work. So you do need to hit a certain revenue, or you're setting yourself up for failure because something has to give financially. You need to have successfully implemented all of the minimum systems and ideally the recommended systems as well that I mentioned in the first half of the presentation, or you're going to fail and spend 3 times as much as you should. And last thing is 3 important conversations that you should have with your team is what will I handle and what will you be handling? How do we both communicate best? And what are our emergency protocols? These are all covered throughout the presentation, but consider them non-negotiables. I put recommendations on this slide. I'd like to change that to non-negotiable for that last one. So I have 2 offers, which I think are going to help you depending on if you're more of a do-it-yourself person, like I am, or more of a done-for-you type of person, where we actually handle this for you. The first of the 2 is a DIY package. I have a whole Hire Your Own Virtual Assistant training course, which includes access to our job templates, our full interview process, including questions, including behind the scenes on how to choose the right VA, delegation strategies, test strategies, built out SOPs, and meeting templates. So I've got a whole course on hiring and training your own virtual assistant if you feel that you want to do this yourself. And I put the link here below. If you go to localbusinessmba.com, you'll find the Hire and Train Your Own Virtual Assistant course. You can use the code TRAINMYVA for 20% off. Now, this course is actually getting a massive overhaul within the next couple of months. So if you get it now using the 20% off code, you'll get access to the current version, but you'll get free access to the new version when it comes out as well. So this is a very good time to pick it up because the price is at least doubling soon because it's getting a huge, huge upgrade. So if you're more of a do-it-yourself person, go with that option. But if you're busy, you don't have time, or you don't want to do the training, we actually offer our own fully trained virtual assistants at InoVALocal.com. And just for Maid Summit attendees, you can get 50% off our setup fee and 50% off the first month working with us. We've actually had well over 100 cleaning companies get virtual assistants through us. So we've been through this time and time again. Literally every month we're bringing on wonderful new VAs that need a home, that want to work with a cleaning company and have the expertise to back it up. So If you want to go the done for you route where we handle the training for you, we handle the onboarding, and we offer support throughout as long as you're with us, I recommend that you jump on a call with us. You can just go to this link here. It's calendly.com/InoVA-local. You'll find our no BS consultation call, and you can book a call with me and my team, and we'll walk you through how to get a wonderful VA with us who can just hit the ground running and make your life a lot easier. So, last thing is, if you want to reach out to me, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I'm fairly active. I've not been that active on Facebook this year because I got married, so I've been focused on my move over here. I've been focused on family life, but I will be active again soon. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can do that on the ways listed here. You can visit inovalocal.com and reach out on our booking form. You can schedule a call with us, or you can reach out to me personally at chris@inovalocal.com. And the last thing is, I have a Facebook group. I've purposely not posted it in a while, but we're going to be reviving it soon. You can follow the link there, and you can join our Facebook group. You're welcome to comment. You're welcome to ask me questions at any time. So with that said, I hope this presentation was a great, broad, big picture overview for you on how to go remote in a year. It's not too detailed on purpose, just because I'll be here for 3 hours otherwise, and you'll be asleep. But each of these business quarters, there's a whole lot that goes into each of them. So take this presentation as a high-level overview of how to position your business the next year so that your systems are in place, you've got a great VA or office manager handling everything, you've done a good dry run and everything's gone well, and you can be sure that when you go remote, if there are issues, that your team have the SOPs and they have the experience to know how to handle those issues without you. So if you follow this roadmap, you reach out and get some help when you have questions, you will be well on your way to being able to travel with your business, to being an absentee owner, or just setting yourself up for future success as you grow and level up the size of your business as well. So I wish you all the best. I hope to hear from you, and that's it. Take care.